it's very important to start focusing on AI.
Someone who will not be using AI will be at a serious disadvantage.
Pick up some important challenges which you faced. How relevant the AI would be in an architecture or a interior industry. Just for the audience, what you are saying is that AI will not be a competition.
AI will become a really very important part of all these fronts.
So design house Elon Musk or Shah Rukh Khan. Hello everyone, welcome to Journey with CJ Season 2. Let me introduce you to one of the most hardworking and disciplined guy of the industry. Let's welcome architect Jaskaran from Fab Interiors. Paji, welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me over. Really happy to be here.
So Baji, as it's a privilege, to be honest, to be with the most amazing soul, most beautiful human being. इतनी अच्छी बातें सुन के मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा उसमें.
I think that's a compliment.
That's a great compliment.
That's a compliment coming from Sumit, but very kind of him to say all that, and very kind of you to remember all of this.
But do you think it's true?
Perhaps to some extent. I'm sure there are, of course, fatal flaws in everyone, and I'm definitely no exception. But I definitely, by nature, I'm someone who tries to collaborate well, doesn't want to, is careful, mindful of people around me. Really don't want anyone to feel bad. Maybe those things come across as being a good soul, maybe.
Yeah, and with my experience, honestly, it's completely true. And I completely agree with Sumit that you cannot hurt anyone. आप चाह के भी किसी को hurt नहीं कर सकते.
No, I've done that a lot, but
You've done that a lot.
But the intention is not there, and
Okay.
if whenever it's happened, I really instantly regret it.
You know, I honestly feel that for me, with time, I've realized that intent is very important. You know, if your intent is good, then, you know, things go in the right way. अगर आप कोई भी चीज करते हो, well, your intention is nice, then it's okay. And you realize कि ठीक है यार, गलती हो गई, we're all human beings, we make mistakes. But honestly, you know, coming on a platform like this, and when architects, your fellow friends and everyone talking about you, it feels good, whatever it is.
It did, really did. When I watched the podcast, it felt really nice. And he hadn't mentioned something like this other than the podcast. So
Right.
yeah.
But he has mentioned something else also, which I will talk to you about later, which is also a complete turnaround. So it will be a suspense for you. But anyways, coming back to what we do, we basically try to inspire and motivate people.
Right.
I have been observing this for a long time, which I spoke on my podcast earlier also. कि lot of people, lot of young generation, lot of young architects, they feel कि यार जसकरण को तो legacy मिल गई, you know, and he has got from his father, and वो तो यार silver spoon में, you know, है.
Yes.
But not exactly. I'm talking about your case, but generally एक observation architects, young audience, young architects की रहती है कि यार ये तो सिल्वर स्पून मिला है, ये तो क्या हार्ड वर्क किया होगा, या यू नो इस आर्किटेक्ट को तो ये मिल गया है. बट आई पर्सनली फील, बिकॉज आई हैव सीन योर जर्नी पर्सनली एंड आई हैव ग्रोन विद यू ओवर द टाइम,
Right.
कि you know there are challenges, there are a lot of hard work, there's a lot of, you know, evolving yourself. So from this medium of podcast, I would like you to be, you know, expressing ki what the journey has been and how it's transformed from a 15, you know, to 20 people office to 100 plus people office.
Right.
And so coming back to the journey, let's
Yes.
start with your schooling, your, you know, college days. How you feel has been the times, if you can explain to the audience.
You know, somehow I was very drawn towards this field of architecture from the beginning, even before I knew what it was called. As long as I can remember, even when I was 4 or 5, I was imagining spaces, toying with spaces, expressing myself through drawings, Lego blocks, all those things. At any opportunity, used to like going to the office and just see what's happening around without understanding really much of it. and dad also liked having me over once in a while. So then the direction was very clear that this is what I wanted to do, and all through school, that's where my focus was. Schooling was great. I went to Don Bosco first, then I went to modern school, had a good exposure from both these great schools. College, I went to School of Planning and Architecture in Delhi. And in fact, I only applied for architecture. I got reasonably good grades. I was great at sports also. Could have tried to take a backup, but really, that was not the idea. I only applied to architecture colleges. Was lucky to get through to SPA. Had 5 great years, very grueling years. Uh, I mean, they really do try and maybe make it as taxing as they can for you, so that just to perhaps to prepare for future professional life. Uh, I met my future wife in college, so but I think college prepared us well to a certain extent. Um, I still feel there are gaps in the education system of that period, and I perhaps feel there are greater gaps now.
Okay, we'll talk about this later.
Sure.
But something very emotional, because I tried to do some Reiki before I do the podcast. So I
Yes.
had the privilege of talking to your father. His name is architect Sarabjit Singh, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. He had created his own legacy. हम तो उस टाइम पे पैदा ही नहीं हुए जब आपकी
Right.
firm start हुई थी.
Yeah.
And you'll be very happy to know, because very emotional when I was talking to him. He said he's super proud, and you have been a very good boy from the beginning, and never troubled him in the school or college. Always very good in studies, and he had all praises for you. मैंने बड़ी कोशिश करी कि कुछ तो बता दो, कुछ तो नेगेटिव बताओ, so that I can tell him, but कुछ नेगेटिव नहीं आया. All he said is that he's super happy, and he's very proud of you, and the way you have transformed the company is also amazing. So considering that thing, I personally feel that you had a legacy to run.
Yes.
So starting 1976, 15 people, now 100 plus people in your organization. How difficult it was to have that pressure? Why I'm asking this question is because of the young audience architecture, people who are joining their parents' firm, or so in that context, how was that pressure and how did you manage and handle?
You know, I'm at a bit of a handicap. I really cannot compare someone like Sumit's journey, perhaps Rudraksh's journey, and journey for most people who really set up their own offices. And it's a great achievement. I can definitely say, in my case, it has its own share of struggles and challenges. Uh, if someone is setting up a new shop, definitely for sure the challenges will be more. But this has its own set of challenges. Um, stepping into a fully functioning office, expecting to be doing well on day one, I think was the difficult part. And the office was always super busy. Honestly, no one had a minute of spare time to really answer questions and, in fact, take out long patches of time to explain things to me. So while I was in a fully functional office, and that was really helpful because I had access to a lot of information that was happening, a lot of projects that were already underway. Finding the first project was definitely the easiest thing for me, because the day I walked into office, after a few days I was working on my first hotel project. So those things definitely came easy. But really finding my own space, finding my own way, even within this busy organization, which at that time also was doing really well. And then, taking it forward from there. Because apart from, of course, technical expertise, you do need a sense of direction, that how to take a company or any organization forward. Your hiring pattern changes, the kind of people you're looking for changes, your own understanding of how a company organization should grow, that changes over time. So I'm actually very thankful to this profession, because I realized that it has been a great learning experience. There's so many things which I never even realized as a subject I would need to know.
Right.
I never thought that understanding people would be an important part of running an organization, but now I understand it's perhaps the most important thing.
Most important. Yes.
So it's definitely, I'd like to think it's made me a much better person being part of this challenge, and I'm thankful for it.
So, Jaskaran, something you want to tell the young audience who's joining their parents' profession, the same architecture, that what they should do, because you've already had your journey and you've been quite successful. Something very important.
Yeah. Start from the bottom up. Really, definitely most important that it's like a performing art. It's not something that we inherit. It's not perhaps a automated business that we are can run comfortably. Perhaps nothing is, but definitely this is something which you need to have the feel for it. You need to be able. You need to be delivery capable on your own also.
Right.
And I think that can only come by doing it yourself.
Right.
So for perhaps loving parents also, they should also have that aspect of tough love has to be there. They should be ready, and they has to put their kids ready at the most basic level and let them grow organically from there.
Nice.
That would be my advice.
That's great. So, very interesting feedback. So, let's talk about your first big break, which was like something which you really felt proud of. You thought, ki, yaar, yes, maza aa gaya.
My initial projects were hotel projects, and there was a hotel which came up in Gurgaon, a very challenging project because it was supposed to be a boutique property, and really they wanted the best of everything inside a small plot. So whether it's banqueting facilities, restaurants, health club, a pool, suites, regular rooms. So and we had a challenge with the technical challenge with the basements also. So actually, I was very lucky because we were able to put together a very good team. Mr. Gyanchand Mudgil, really, whatever I understand about building services, I think I've largely learned from him. Very lucky that he was part of the team handling the MEP. Mr. Jayachandra, very senior person handling hospitality planning. So they were very kind and gracious with their time and really took out time to explain things to me. And so the learning was really tremendous in these projects. And but I had to really put in a lot of time trying to develop things, working on option after another option, and then figuring out whatever is the best way to go forward. So this hotel in it's still there in Gurgaon, does fairly well. So that was my first project. Then a couple of hotels in Chandigarh, and but by that time I had gotten the hang of doing hotels.
Nice. This is a very personal question because which I'm going to ask you on my observation, because always I don't generally prepare my questions much, but जो मेरे mind में मुझे लगता है मैं पूछ लेता हूँ. So one of the questions I remember, because as I said, I've grown with your organization, that initially for some time you were always confined to your room. You were not coming out of your room. I mean that you were more focusing on
That's true.
That's true. And मैंने public dealing कम होती थी, vendor dealing कम होती थी, and so if you can explain to the audience that what was your mindset then and what changed and how it changed and how better it was.
Great observation, actually. You're right. But the one perhaps justification could be that beginning I was focused more on architecture. And architecture, the range of products is definitely much lesser than we have for interiors. But apart from that, yes, it's true for any fraternity related event. I very rarely used to step out. And it was not a really a decision as such. I just thought I didn't have the time and gave perhaps proportionately more importance to the immediate work at hand, not realizing how much more important uh, learning the environment, observing other things that are happening, getting a better feel for products and services that are around us. So that was one mistake what I would like to think I made for sure. And but when I did started spending some time stepping out, attending events, learning about new products, the people who are working around us. So that also has been a great learning journey. But that's one thing also we would like to tell our perhaps young audiences. I think they're smarter than us in that regard. They already seem to be quite social. But apart from social media, stepping out, visiting perhaps a great establishment such as yours is an investment. And there's so many other places that are worth visiting. International fairs, for instance, interacting with people from your fraternity. You might think of them as competition, but really they're your biggest support system.
Right.
Because I think what's happened is our industry is too fragmented. There are so many things to address in your own organization, and I think it will be difficult for any one person or a couple heading a company to be able to be handle all of those things. Maybe starting from technology, handling contracts, recruitment, sustaining people, developing talent, training, uh, perhaps other things as well. So I think if as a group, the informal discussions that we do have help each of us learn from the other. I could be good at a couple of things, and I can learn about other things from other fellow architects. So very important to have this interactions and detailed interactions with your own fellow architects, fellow designers.
So this is my another observation when you're talking, although this is not part of my questionnaire, but now you said it. मुझे लगता है कि एक जो हमारे नॉर्थ इंडिया में स्पेशली द इंटरेक्शन इज नॉट टू मच. मुझे लगता है देयर इज लॉट ऑफ इनसिक्योरिटी और sharing is not happening much, or as you said that it's very important to interact, very important to do. What is your take on this?
I wouldn't be the right person to do a comparison between different parts of the country. I would like to think in Delhi, the situation has changed for the better in the past perhaps 8-10 years, or as long as I've been observing. And with few close friends, I think we are very open about what we are able to do and what we perhaps need to figure out. But that's also is true for a lot of other architects I've actually met coming from Delhi and Gurgaon.
Right.
So I'm actually very comfortable, and definitely they're also very kind with their advice and suggestions. So I find myself at least in a very good circle. How is the other country doing in this regard? I really wouldn't be the right person to ask.
So I personally feel there should be a lot of effort to do this, but it's worth doing it, to be honest, because I've always believed in synergy. मैं तो शुरू से सोचता हूँ कि मिलना चाहिए, sharing करनी चाहिए, and it's all. So maybe hopefully through this podcast we can start some networking kind of a thing where people can meet more often, because कभी मैं देखता हूँ कि same college के friends हैं, and after so many years of practice they hardly meet, they hardly interact. मतलब sometimes it comes surprising to me, but of course we can always make effort towards that direction, I personally feel. And anyways, now coming back to another very interesting topic. What is the importance of awards according to you? And do you think the awards are real?
Recognition, presentation, making people aware of your presence and your achievements, your deliveries, I think is definitely necessary. I've been lagging in that regard. But if I try to think of it like as an outsider, I think along with other things, perhaps presence in social media, and one has to be perhaps selective about the award functions that they choose to attend. I think attended ones which seem very respectable, and I've had the misfortune of attending someone which was just giving away awards. So I think if one stays within these respected circles, I think there is definitely nothing wrong with them. But yes, they also have to make the event successful. So
Any advice for them?
I wouldn't. I think I wouldn't really try and venture out into their own, into their business model. It's a. I think it's a bit of a struggle for them as well, uh, because a lot of architects are reluctant to attend event uh, because everyone is really short on time. So perhaps that's a challenge, getting people over to attend functions. Those who are attending definitely tend to seem to be getting more awards than the ones that who are not attending events. And perhaps, but that's, I think it's also compulsion on them.
Yes.
I don't see a way around it for them as well.
I think events is बहुत ज़्यादा. It's too much to handle. So too many events happening every month, every quarter, something or the other happening with.
Yeah, I think people are trying to piggyback on this model a lot. But I think each new idea, there are a lot of people who really try to pick up that idea. But it will take some time for it to mature. But I see that happening as well. I see the maturity of these events really improving, and I'm sure the ones which are not as good will get filtered out in due time.
I know you're a positive person. You cannot hurt anyone. तो आप तो positive direction की ही बात करोगे. So which is a very good thing. And what do you think about PR? How important the PR has become over the time now?
I, again, it's extremely important. But what's also happening is a lot of people are relying too much on PR, but not on actual deliveries. So those people really need to be careful. There's a great saying that good marketing kills a bad product faster.
Yes.
So they need to be really careful. I think it needs to go hand in hand with your organization capabilities. Then it's a fair balance. Um, Personally, like I said, I'm not into PR myself. The teams in the office are able to handle it to some extent, but we've been really poor in really getting up our PR efforts. But in general, my thoughts are that really try to keep it as close to your actual deliveries as possible,
Nice.
because the chances of burnout I feel are very high.
Hi.
For through different mediums, people try and promote themselves, but you'll notice that the ones who are now actually doing really well are the ones who had a sustained practice for the past 15, 20, 30 years or so. A lot of people along the way I can remember perhaps came about and they did well. At that time, PR wasn't there, but creating the presence through whichever means. And a lot of them actually, if I may use the word, fizzled out. So I think for their own sake, they need to keep it in balance.
Right. Very well said. So let's talk about some important things which are very important again to when you're designing. This answer is basically for the young architects audience who's listening to this podcast. We ha- we have managed to get good views, by the way. So when I was doing with Sumit, हमें लगा था कि यार views आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, but बहुत अच्छे views आए. So I feel that we have a good audience.
I would like to think it's also a new channel, so
Yeah.
it will take time to get that traction. But I think in times to come, these can be really, really important for fantastic video documentation. I saw the one with Sumit; that was excellent. I saw the entire thing at one stretch.
And Sumit told me that he got messages of how inspiring it was for others. So I was very happy. And I also feel कि एक या दो inspire हो जाए, I'll be very happy.
We've done a job.
Yeah, we've done a job. Exactly. So what are the key important things while designing?
Everything that you can think of. Whether it's, of course, the requirements of the project. If you're doing a home, then requirements of the client, the site conditions, the purpose it's meant to serve. Each house serves a slightly
So
different
let's
purpose.
take an example of a home.
Right.
Okay. So 5 important things when you're designing a home.
I think the most important is really matching the lifestyle of the client along with your
So lifestyle is one.
building design. So the building design has to support the lifestyle of the family that's going to step in, and the lifestyle that they wish to move into. So that's perhaps most important thing. The second part could be how well the building will sustain itself. There is really no fun in actually doing a building, and after a few years, it doesn't really appeal to the residents. It's not something which they can actually present or make it as a presentation of the family to the society. So how it sustains itself visually, technically is another important aspect. Then would come your health and actually physical comfort. Does it have natural air, ventilation? These basics are so critical.
Interesting.
And often they get messed out for the sake of, let's say, some design element somewhere. So whether I really wish to create spaces where each indoor space has an adjoining outdoor space as well. If it's a bedroom, so this is the indoor part of a bedroom, and this balcony is the outdoor part of a bedroom. If I have a formal drawing room, perhaps this is the indoor part of the drawing room, and this terrace is the outdoor part of my drawing room. So I like to create spaces which have both an indoor area and corresponding outdoor area as much as I can. And just the experience of those spaces changes completely. Then figuring out what are the materials and the design theme really that you're playing with. I think each material, you know, has a certain language and it generates a certain mood. Which spaces would you like to treat them in a more formal manner? You need to bring in those materials. Some spaces, perhaps your family lounge, you want to do it in a more informal manner.
Right.
So you need to bring in materials which have that sense of informality. So these things. I think once you start putting these things together, uh,
Interesting.
your home starts.
So for the audience, I can say lifestyle, sustainability, health, material. These are the most important.
Material, how you combine actually different materials together, how the materials basically, whatever surrounds us, creates a certain vibe.
Right.
And each room is also supposed to create a certain vibe, so that they have to be in sync.
I agree.
If it's a home office, it belongs inside a home, but it should be a space where I can step away and get into my work mode.
Right.
If I'm going to be meeting business friends in my home office, it really needs to have that strength and perhaps power, if I may say so, which gets conveyed immediately when you're within that space. If it's supposed to be a bar area, entertainment area, the moment you step in, it should feel like you should be able to relax, chill out,
and you should feel like drinking.
Yes.
No, very well said, Jaskaran. Now, a very important topic, which I personally feel is creating the buzz in the international also, is the AI. How relevant the AI would be in an architecture or a interior industry?
Oh, very relevant.
Yeah.
I think it's already become quite relevant, and it will continue to grow in that respect. It's the same. Well, I wouldn't say it's similar, but if in very simplistic terms, one can think of the change, the transition which happened from manual drawings to computer drawings. With the help of computer drawings, now we're able to make buildings which are far more complex than what we were able to when we were just relying on hand drawings.
Right.
The same thing will, of course, become true when along with AI. We are, of course, right now looking at generally how to, let's say, perhaps get ideas faster, perhaps make some deliveries faster. But I don't think that's the main purpose that AI will serve for us in future. Our capability to deliver buildings of higher complexity will be greatly supported by AI.
So, just for the audience, what you are saying is that AI will not be a competition, but AI will be a tool to help you to give a better product. Am I right?
AI will become a competition for the people who will not be using AI.
Okay.
It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Oh.
So I think someone who will not be using AI will be at a serious disadvantage, and my prediction is they will not be able to compete with other firms which will be using AI and other tools which come along in the future.
So I can tell the audience it's very important to start focusing on AI in their work because it will be the future.
100%. Any tools actually which come along, which help you deliver your profession better,
Right.
those you need to adopt. It's as simple as that. It could be let's say something like AI. Perhaps we might discover some sort of a manual tool which comes along, which is really helps me draw much better. I should be able to use that one as well.
Right.
I really don't need to hold myself back with the technology or the tools that I have today. Whatever tools come about, it could be something like a beautiful sheet of paper that comes along. Whatever I can do to enhance my professional deliveries, I should be willing to do that.
Right.
So stepping out of my comfort zone or anyone's comfort zone, I think is a real necessity.
Real necessity.
And we need to invest definitely some amount of time in figuring out these tools and making them part of your workflow.
Karan, very important thing again to educate the audience. You have been in industry for a long time now. Can you pick up some important challenges which you faced and what is important to take care of? some key challenges over the time.
One challenge that actually I'm let's say been trying to address over the years is how to scale a practice which is practice like ours, while of course maintaining and improving quality. And I feel, the to my mind, the solution is actually need to have a galaxy of stars within your own organization. One person just leading the show and the entire team relying on his talent, his expertise, his or her hard work will not be sufficient and will not make us, uh, will not be in a position to compete with, let's say, global giants if we go with this model. I feel a lot of companies are still trying to work on that same model. But really, it has to be something sort of a medical institute, if I may say so. It has to be a ground where you're delivering, also where you're learning at the same time. We have relied, I think, too much, myself included, on people learning while they're on the job. And that's an important part of learning. But I think we need to introduce some sort of a structured learning as well. Some sort of more academic oriented training sessions, making people understand and learn about different aspects of architecture and interiors, I think is really, really critical. So that's something which I have come to the conclusion after, in fact, many years, that's something that we really have to focus on and put our energies on. And it's been actually great fun because the people who've actually been able to deliver better, the environment becomes so intelligent. I also enjoy being part of that environment. I used to feel a sense of isolation when I was just trying to work on my own, make sketches, give it to someone. It used to come back to me, review it, and I was the only person, let's say, of course, along with that, working on the intellectual aspects of design and architecture. But since he started working on this model, trying to give people more exposure, more learnings, and recently we tried to do these training sessions as well. Uh, I've started to enjoy work more than before.
Very well said. And again, I'm going to talk about your dad because, he also mentioned in this conversation which I had that you've really incorporated quite interesting tools and, upgraded the systems. So he was very impressed.
But that's something, in fact, perhaps is a part of is a bit of a passion also for me.
Yeah.
Figuring out whichever is a good software that we can move on to. Revit, for instance.
Yes.
We were struggling. In fact, it's been a project for me for the past 12 years. Off and on, I tried for maybe 11, 12 years to make this transition from AutoCAD to Revit, which is a much better software to work on.
Right.
Because AutoCAD, just for people perhaps who don't understand the difference as well enough, is a drawing tool, but the software itself doesn't recognize that you are making a building or making a kitchen.
Oh.
We put in the lines, written the text. You can figure out, I can figure out that, okay, this drawing represents a kitchen or a wardrobe. But the computer doesn't know that. Revit or ArchiCAD, they're actually virtual building softwares. So it recognizes that this is a wall, this is a window, this is a roof. So after years of struggle, I was able to make the transition in the office. Now, entirely the entire team is now working on Revit. So that's one. AI tools also, we've, I think, adopted them fairly well. Whether it is AI tools for imagination, for coming up with ideas, that's one part of AI. Another part of AI is how can you look at more variations of your own design options. And the third part, which will come out perhaps in future, is which helps us in the technical deliveries as well. It's somewhere in the works right now. I haven't seen a working model anywhere in the world for this. If something exists, I'm not aware of it. Someone better can educate us in the comment section. But in every section, from imagination to looking at more variations of your own design deliveries, and then finally at delivering on the technical aspects as well, AI will become a really very important part of all these fronts.
Nice. Very well said. Again, so Jaskaran, I think people look at you as a very serious person, but you have a very big fun side. I feel, and I know, to be honest. So, you also enjoy pranks
A lot.
lot.
Lot, and it's not that I've put on a serious mask and a funny mask. Really, I mean, for people who have seen me in office and outside of office, it's a very natural switch for me. If I'm looking at work, I'm
Yeah.
being serious. But if the moment I move away from work, I can be as playful as the next
So,
person.
I think, when we talk about 80-20 rule, so 80% we see you as a serious person. We means not me, the people around.
Right.
20% we see you as the fun guy. Like, for example, coincidentally, this was not happening.
Yeah.
So when you were in our showroom and a girl walked off, one of our team people came to me and said, sir is always very serious. Why isn't he smiling? Then I told you, please smile to her. She wants to see your smile. So, but I know that you have quite a fun side. I have experienced that. And let's talk about, no, it's a fun side we're discussing before we start our rapid fire, is that you love to do pranks. Can you share the prank story of Savoy Hotel, which you did?
I shouldn't be. Really, I shouldn't be.
So, I did my homework well. I did my homework. So, I generally call quite a lot of people to do Reiki. So, it's not a simple podcast for me. It's a lot of hard work, I would say, rather than doing my work. This is that. So, you have to share the story with people because I want the audience to know that you have a great fun side. You're diving, you put challenges with your friends, then they are not going into the pool, then you jump, you push them to go to the pool. I've heard that story also. So
Right.
before this happened during Diwali time. So before we discuss that, let's discuss this Savoy story.
No, Savoy, when Dad was, of course, given the responsibility of recreating the Savoy because it was in complete shambles.
Yeah.
So it was an old, dilapidated structure, and I mean,
We heard haunted stories then.
so those stories had been going around.
Yes.
But so one cottage, which was again in a horrible condition, that had been set up as a site office.
Yeah.
And one person who does get spooked a little easy, gets spooked a little easily. So he was there, and I had this idea. I said, okay, let's just quietly step out and let him be the only one there. And it was quite late at night already. So I stepped out, the other people came out. Finally, he was the only one left. And I just switched off the lights through the main panel. And it was some distance away.
Okay.
And this guy really used to get spooked very easily.
Okay. And
So-
you made sure that he's gone forever.
But he said a very sweet thing when
Yeah.
he came out. So I tried to justify. मैं चाहता था कि आपका डर निकल जाए. करण मेरे प्राण निकल जाएंगे.
करण मेरे प्राण निकल जाएंगे, डर नहीं निकले.
But I did feel a little guilty after because he expressed himself very seriously after that. So
that's your emotional habit. You try to do something nice, sometimes it doesn't happen, then you feel guilty, and then you try to.
We were similar story. We were trying to catch a flight from someplace I can't remember. And there's one person who used to panic very easily if we are short on time. So I took his while he was dozing off in the car, I took his phone and changed the time in it.
Oh, really?
And when he got up, so all of us said, okay, no, actually there was a jam while you were sleeping and we are quite late. I don't know how we'll catch the flight.
Oh.
And then he started panicking.
So this is your fun side, huh? This is your. So what is your thing on, losing directions, Jaskaran? I heard that you keep forgetting the locations, the directions. Once you were with Surbi, you were around the CP and it took you 3 or 4 turns reaching the destination, but you still were looking for what is this thing of losing the directions?
I really hope someone hadn't told you about this because I think I have to live it through now.
No, of course, that's the podcast all about. It's a very decent podcast. हम तो बहुत decent की बात करते हैं.
No, I'm not great at directions.
Yes.
So Google Map has been a real help for me. But the thing about taking 3 or 4 rounds of CP, that we were dating at that point.
Right.
So one round was because of my forgetfulness. The other rounds were intentional.
Surbi listening should listen to this. It was intentional. And somebody else also was a third. I think कोई गाय भैंस कोई आ गई थी जो गाड़ी के अंदर घुस गई थी.
That's also true.
That's also true. So you had a guest coming over.
Because I had this fascination of trying to figure out a different route, trying to figure out a shortcut.
Yes.
If I can. And me being not great directions shouldn't be the one trying out these things.
Very good.
So there was a straight route coming from, I think, somewhere to somewhere, and I tried to take a detour, and we landed up in a place where I mean the road had just disappeared.
I remember. So this talk made me remember one episode which you and me had together when we were flying together, and I was with you, and you told me कि यार मैं तो पूरा proper organized तरीके से सारा कुछ ले आया. I don't forget that part when you were preaching about your kind of organizing capabilities, and I was sitting and listening to you very calmly, and you were telling me कि सीजे मैं तो पूरा everything organize this that and everything बहुत बढ़िया मैं organize करता हूँ.
And
Actually बात है after 30 minutes when we were reaching to the airport 5 minutes after 5 minutes after 5 minutes after 5 minutes we realized that you passport कहाँ है आपका you didn't have your passport only. Then I was looking at you. मैंने कहा कहाँ गए वो organization skills खत्म हो गए सब किधर चले and you were like oh we have मेरा passport कहाँ है मेरा passport कहाँ है and then we had to call the driver and keep the passport.
You win.
It was funny. It was really
you win some, you lose some.
you win some, you lose some. In lose we sometimes win. But
But actually I've realized when I'm traveling alone, I'm more organized and I'm able to get through all these things.
भाई ऐसी उस टाइम भी ऐसी बोल रहा था मेरे को आज जो बोल
No, truly so. What happens is when I'm with friends, the focus completely changes. The mindset is
right.
and then definitely I tend to do these things more.
I know. And you and me had such a great chat in the plane. I remember for I think 5-6 years we were just discussing about the work and how we can organize. I think it was a good.
That was a great discussion.
Great discussion. I think we implemented those things also in our organization. It really worked very well. I think and still, मतलब वही 80-20 चल रहा है. मतलब but still the direction was right. But anyways, I think this has been a great session, and we come towards the end of the session where we ask a rapid fire, because a lot of people say यार लंबा मत करो podcast, थोड़ा छोटा कर दो, थोड़ा ऐसा कर दो. But when we sit, we so much enjoy the conversation that we don't get the hang of time कि भी क्या time. But anyways, controlling the time also and understanding. So the rapid fire. Should we start the rapid fire?
I hope it's not the same one that.
No, it's not the same one. No, it's not the same one. सुमित ने तो रैपिड फायर का रैपिड कर दिया था. उसने तो अपने आंसर्स को रैपिड को छोड़ के पूरा जस्टिफिकेशन दिया था, which was very good.
Because those were quite challenging questions. I don't think I can handle.
But सुमित से याद आया, सुमित has one observation about you before we start the rapid fire. He says he's although Jaskaran is a very beautiful human being, but he keeps a lot of things in his heart. And जब वो बोलता है तो वो सबको भस्म कर देता है. So I don't know what's the meaning about this, but he was very categorically कि यार ऐसा क्यों करते हो आप?
You may have been trying to make a joke or something like that. I do have a lot of perhaps serious thoughts going on in my mind all the time. And it's not that I've kept them to myself. If the situation calls for it, I'm happy to discuss those things. He could be indicating that direction. I wouldn't want to ask him.
Next time when you are with him, पहले बोले भाई क्या बता दे क्या क्वेश्चन. मैं पहले बता रहा हूँ ये बात, कोई भसम कुछ नहीं होना. So anyways, let's talk about rapid fire. Stationery or table tennis? One thing. That's why.
No.
So homework again. You should compliment me. भाई पूरा homework करता हूँ मैं. ऐसे नहीं.
That's a actually excellent question. Tough for me to choose. If I have to choose one, of course my work gives me the biggest satisfaction. So stationery.
So मैं पूरा दिन लगा देते हो stationery shop पे. 3 4 bags आते हैं. So
that's true.
You have a big fetish for the stationery stuff and things like that. Excellent. Okay. Second. So if your father is reviewing your design today, one thing he would criticize about.
Difficult to guess something specific. I'm sure there would be things he would. There would be lots of things he would like to comment about.
One thing.
Well, he's very observant about detailing and junctions. So that's perhaps the first thing that he would observe. How the floor is meeting the walls, how the wall is meeting the ceiling. So that's something which he catches very quickly. And then, of course, there could be the odd design input, perhaps related to color combination, something like that.
Okay.
But technical details, he's very, very quick to point out.
Nice. One design trend you absolutely hate, but clients keep asking for.
No, I think I've been lucky in that regard. Whatever, we've mostly had clients who had good taste, and the expectations in most cases are quite sensible. The expectations fluctuate. That's the challenge that we have to deal with as designers. But I think in terms of designs, I've not been asked to deliver something outlandish ever, perhaps. So I think I've been quite lucky in that way.
So if architecture didn't exist, what would you be doing today? Have you ever thought of this?
Yes, I actually love solving problems, and I love getting into the depth of things, doing analysis. So perhaps a consultant of some other sort. That's what comes to mind.
थोड़ा हमारी रेकी जब हमने करी तो हमने आपका एक और पैशन के बारे में पता चला है हमको कि आप गाना बहुत अच्छा गाते हैं.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं.
You are a very good singer.
बिल्कुल भी.
And you are a very good bathroom singer. Is it true?
I am a bathroom singer, but not a good bathroom singer.
Okay. But what I heard is that you sing very well.
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Are you avoiding my next question to sing? That's why.
I am promising you I can't sing.
So do architecture people, when they go to somebody's house, do they secretly judge the houses?
You know, I keep quite long working hours. So I've made it a habit to shut down as much as I can. So when I'm visiting a friend's place, I'm really not assessing the architecture as such. Maybe for a few minutes, but it's not something that's constantly playing on my mind. Because after maybe 10, 12 hours of working, if I keep that architecture hat on all the time, it'll be really, really very, very stressful and very punishing.
Are you insecure?
Yes, not to the extent that I would let it influence my decisions or the right steps that we need to take. But I think insecurity is something that has to be factored in. That's the same thing as fear. Fear is a great guide. It tells you it gives you the right direction of what path has to be taken, and it tells you what all things that you will have to address in times to come, and keeps you prepared. So I think all these emotions, whether it's fear, insecurity, or even anxiety, it's just your brain telling you something, and you have to respond to it.
I think everybody takes their insecurity in a different way. So it's good if somebody can take it positively. I asked the same question to Sumit also about this. So I think it's everyone has their own way of taking it. I personally feel.
But I think that's the function of our minds to inform us or to highlight whatever concerns or opportunities that it sees for us. Trying to shut down that part of the mind which informs you about the concerns or the issues that you might be facing I don't think is the right approach.
Right.
I think you should just let it out. I think writing is a great activity one can do to just write down whatever concerns are coming to mind. And the moment you start writing it down, at least for myself, I start immediately coming up with solutions as well. And so often it becomes a beautiful guide, and you don't need actually someone else to tell you those things.
Right. So time travel to architecture era, which one? If you have to time travel.
That's an interesting one. That's something I've never
thought of,
heard before. I'm actually greatly fascinated by how our old temples were built. So that's something I would really, really like to see and witness for myself, because that's beyond my comprehension.
So given a choice, architecture or interior design?
I've never differentiated between the two. For me, it's
making club, architecture, interior.
Once again, it's always gone hand in hand.
Okay.
I can't differentiate the two. I like to visualize spaces, think of the building, and because as an experience, you're not differentiating the two.
One thing architects should never say to client.
Overcome it, perhaps. That could be that can really lead you to trouble. Overcommitting perhaps is
Okay, very important now. So the audience will be listening to this. Come to the rating part. How do you rate everyone's work?
I was hoping that this question doesn't come again.
Well, your friends rated you. I wanted you to rate them, which is very, very important. So, of course, the list will be the same. I don't want to change the list because I know this is your group. So, architect Rudraksh is the first name. Then architect Ashmit Alag is the second name. Then architect Sumit Dhawan is the third name. Then Saiba is another name. So, these four people, which I feel are very important, and you move around. Anyone else you want to put, you are most welcome to put.
In terms of contribution, Sumit also said the same thing. Zafarji's contribution, I think, is tremendous. I think the amount of new information related to products, materials that is brought into the market, I think that's
He's a trendsetter.
Definitely a trendsetter. I'm also been made to understand he's brought in different materials which weren't even there in the market. So that's something that he's initiated. So, and of course, the number of years he's been able to sustain doing this in a consistent manner, really hats off to him.
Yeah. And we've been lucky to work with him, and we have seen that change of designs. And
unfortunately, I never had a chance to interact about work with him, but whatever I've heard from different people, so I'll have to perhaps respectfully say that his contribution has been the maximum. Between Sumit and Rudraksh, it'll be very difficult to choose. I've never worked with Rudraksh, I've worked with Sumit, but I understand.
you have to pick one. There's no, you can't play googly, you can't do all this with me. You have to pick one. It's simple, period. Sumit picked. You also have to pick. It's simple.
It wouldn't be right for me to. And I'm not.
Nobody is going to complain. It is your own thing.
Then
you have to see whose work you like better, or who you think is more contributing. It's a very simple. You have to choose between four.
No, but it may not be a very fair comparison because Sumit has its focus on architecture, and I feel the amount of architectural volume output that he's been able to generate is tremendous. I can't think of a second person who's been able to do this in this.
So you say after Zafar Sumit.
No, I don't mean to say that. I mean Rudraksh and Priyanka are handling something very different. They're handling projects from end to end, and it requires a much longer time frame and a different approach as well.
So when it comes to rating,
for architectural understanding itself of things, if I maybe I would rate Sumit slightly ahead on some issues perhaps, but then we don't discuss work to that extent. I'm putting a gun to my head and making me say something, but we haven't with Rudraksh and Priyanka haven't interacted ever about work. So for me to compare them, it's really unfair.
No, it's not comparing. It's your own observation. Like Sumit did with you guys. He was very clear that Zafar was number one.
No, because
Rudraksh was number two.
Because
number three was
yes,
you.
because he has actually worked with all of us.
So as a leading architect,
so Sumit is in fact the right person to do a fair comparison.
Sumit को वापस बुलाते हैं आंसर्स के लिए. वो जसकरण के शो पे you tell us but just it's a general, nobody is taking it to heart. The podcast is not about hurting anyone. It's a very simple thing.
It's having the right set of information to be able to give her that answer.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at a handicap.
So you have seen everyone's work
to some extent. Yes.
So you have to judge on what you have seen. Simple. You have to choose. Like I agree Sumit's architecture, so you can say Sumit, or then whatever.
Well, if it comes to purely architecture, then I would say Sumit perhaps is slightly ahead. But of course, in terms of delivering projects end to end, 42 mm, that's Rudraksh and Priyanka, they do a great job. Ashmit, I think the focus largely has been interiors. So I really respect the fact, I do feel architecture is a bigger challenge to handle. Setting up the building from where there is nothing is if I feel a bigger challenge. Once the spaces come about, it does become more sorted and manageable. So in a general sense, I think even the expertise required to deliver architecture, I think the capability required to deliver architecture, I think is higher than what is required to deliver maybe just interiors. Because you have to really keep the building in your own head. And keeping a building in your own head with all its dimensions, it's not easy.
We all are trying to play so safe ना, लगता नहीं है? Answer में सब safe करते हैं.
But then I'm happy to give.
Nobody is happy to share. Nobody is happy. So safe among friends कि भाई बाद में क्या होगा?
नहीं बाद में कुछ नहीं होगा.
बाद में क्या बोला जाएगा? So anyways, you are being very careful naming and trying to be as diplomatic as possible, which is okay, which was expected from you. Because what I understand is that you are also guiding Sumit what to answer, how safe to answer. Because, Sumit sometimes overdo it. But it was a good call.
No, I got to know about the podcast after the podcast had been shot. So,
but you know, there was edit because of you. You want to talk about it? on your advice, we had to edit some things which would have been a problem.
All was good intent.
So I was telling Sumit कि हम ना एक after once we have the success of this, तो हम एक unfiltered start करेंगे where we will pick some things which were not edited. So we would do that, and then the audience will get to know that which part you said not. So, anyways, coming back to the questions. So, design a house, Elon Musk or Shah Rukh Khan, if you get a chance. Whose house would you like to design? Shah Rukh Khan's or Mr. Musk?
Elon Musk for sure.
Great. So, my last question, which we ask everyone, have been asking since season 1, that if there is an event at CJ Living and you have to do something in that event.
Mm-hmm.
It could be MC, DJing, or bartending, or food, or what would be, or photography, or what will you be doing? Singing?
If you want the event to be success, then you wouldn't want me as a singer. Perhaps as a
no, it's your answer.
Perhaps as a photographer.
So you and Rudraksh also has the same passion. So you and Rudraksh can have a good team and do the photography of the event because he also opted for photography. Yeah. And so final advice to the architect, young designers, fellow designers, which you think can be helpful for them listening to this podcast, but a good take for them.
Again, something that I've realized over the years that most important is to keep on delivering your own core capabilities. Everything else can come second, but your own focus on developing your own capabilities should always be your priority. As long as you have that with you, the other things once in a while can take a back seat, can follow along, they can be lax somewhere. But not focusing on your own self can be a big mistake.
Great. So any piece of advice for us? Because we are doing this podcast, anything you want to tell us or अच्छी बात, बुरी बात तो allowed नहीं है. But anything you want to say to us, considering that you are in episode number 3, JWC. So
that happens to be a lucky number. So
really?
Yes.
So it was not intentional, although. So anything you want, any piece of advice? Or
that's how I've been ranked also, please.
Yes, you have been. You're right. Where you were being, now you were being diplomatic, but you were clearly ranked number 3 in that. Yeah. So anything you want to say that what we are trying to do, journey with CJ, how you think it's a good platform for the architect designers, or anything you have to say to us?
No, I think this went really well. I'm quite surprised by the level of research that you have done. Some questions that I never thought anyone would. In fact, anyone outside my family circle would know this about me. But I think once in a while it can also be a sort of a group session.
Yes.
So along with this, I think that can also be done.
Group session means
with more architects, more designers being on board. And
okay. So we are also looking at that, getting 3-4 people together, discussing, having more candid chat, talking about the industry, which I feel will always be encouraging, helpful, because I still feel there are a lot of people looking up to you guys, including me, in sense, because this is the industry I'm learning from. And, we learn something or the other every day. So I think जितनी interactions बढ़ेंगी, जितनी brainstorming होएगी, जितनी internal challenges discuss होंगे, it will be very good for the people.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think we definitely need more of it, and that's the only thing, in fact, we can use to really take this practice in our country forward. And
yeah, and I'm also honestly looking for volunteers because I was thinking of starting a JWC event where it's purely about how we can make it better or inspire or motivate, get young architects, designers, because it's a great platform. It's how you can help each other, because I'm sure everyone who's in that phase of business or phase of life where one is studying or where one is growing needs to know, needs to have a mentor, needs to have someone guiding through. And Sumit, I remember very well said that look for someone who can guide you, in one of his talks. He said, we should all look for Guruji, look for someone where, one can help you go through, because there's so many issues, so many challenges, and I think these kind of talks can really be helpful. But anyways, thank you very much, Jaskaran. It was a great conversation. Maza aa gaya. And honestly, I was expecting the same kind of answers from you, where and you said it from heart, which is true. And I completely agree with what we spoke about, that you are one of the most amazing human beings,
Thank you for that.
amazing soul. You cannot hurt anyone. And I think that's a big trait which you carry. And I think it is carried in the work also. And as your father mentioned, that you're loved by your clients. And I think this is one of the reasons why he mentioned that thing. And I'm also very happy with this podcast today. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.